I lied about my friend's last words, and I will not honor her last request. Names altered for obvious reasons. Apologies for the long post. It's good to get these feelings out. My friend Amy died a couple of months ago, and I was the last one to see her alive. I went over to her apartment. We watched a movie, ate dinner, I left to finish an essay, and then she overdosed and died alone. She was 19. Our final conversation was unremarkable. I said it was good to see her, thanked her for the food. We made plans for the sports we were going to play together the following week. I told her I would send her a bread recipe that we had talked about, and she said she was excited to bring it to a potluck that was coming up. She then wished me luck with the essay, and I said I would try, but Brian, my roommate, was always loud and distracting, so hopefully I could get it done before he came back from clubbing. She laughed, and the very last thing she said to me was, "Say hi to Brian for me." Amy did not answer messages the next day, so I sent her roommate, Kara, a message to ask if everything was okay. Kara had been staying nearby with her boyfriend, so she went home to see what was happening and found Amy's body. She let me know what had happened, and after that there were police and all sorts. It was a shock and confusing, but I did not pry for any details. Amy and Kara were incredibly close, practically sisters, so I absolutely did not want to bother her with questions. And the police had investigating to do. I was asked to describe the evening. Amy used drugs frequently. They don't think the OD was on purpose, but they wanted to know if she was acting strangely. Had she taken anything while I was there? What time did I leave, etc. And the death was deemed not suspicious. Amy did not contact anyone online after I left either, so I was the person she last spoke to. Kara asked me what her last words were. I lied. I said it had been to wish me luck with my essay and that she hoped I had a good night. Amy had always been a positive person and had such a genuine, lovely soul, so well wishes were fitting to be her last words. I did not say anything about saying hi to Brian. Why I lied? Because Brian can go screw himself. There is a running joke amongst some of my friends about Brian's magical ability to make everything about himself. We wanted to do a little Great British Bake Off for fun. Brian buys a sparkly suit and declares himself Paul Hollywood and yells throughout the whole thing. You're doing a painting. Brian can't draw, but until you physically leave, he will lecture you about why you're doing it wrong. Never do improv with Brian. It's like improv with Michael Scott. A group of people want to do life drawing, and Brian finds a way to be the naked model. Any birthday featuring speeches and songs performed by Brian, whether you really know him or not. Someone was coming out as gay and was planning a little picnic for it, so freaking Brian decided to come dressed as a drag queen to take the pressure off. Whatever sport or instrument or language you try to learn, Brian will insist he is better, or would be better if he tried to learn it, which he won't. He physically can't stand not being the center of attention. I do not like Brian. I cannot wait to not live with him anymore. He thinks of himself as charismatic, and at first he truly seems that way, but over time you realize it's all just volume and narcissism. That said, many people do still like him, life of the party, and all while his older friends grow to despise him and gradually exit the group. I was one of the first people to find out that Amy had died. And that evening, I called my best friend to get it off my chest, because I needed to vent feelings. Brian heard. I should have been more careful, but I wasn't in my right mind. He asked for more details. Why did he need more details? Because he had already started drafting a mass message to send to all of Amy's friends to let them know that she had died. Amy and Brian met maybe twice. I told him he couldn't send it. This was on the day I found out. The police were only just involved. We didn't even know if her parents knew yet. He then went off on a whole explanation of how he could find them on Facebook and could check land records to find their house and go there in a suit with a bunch of flowers to sit them down and properly inform them himself. I said the police would tell them, or Kara. As I said, Amy and Kara were close. Kara is from another country, so she spends summers with Amy's family. She's practically like a second daughter. Why on earth would Brian, a total stranger, be a more fitting messenger? He said he had thought that he should get to be the one to tell them. I remember it well, because the word get. For non-native English speakers, you get to be player one. You get to have an extra piece of chocolate. You get to dress up. You get to have a little treat that you want. You absolutely do not get to tell someone that their daughter has died. Anyway, this anti-Brian rant is getting too long. He held off on telling most people until after Amy's parents put out an official statement. Though then he gloated about having known about the news beforehand. He seemed to think that he would be able to speak at her funeral, but compromised and spoke instead at an informal gathering of friends that we held to honor her. He gave several speeches, which, if you weren't aware that the two barely knew each other, would make you think they were very close. He led a number of vigils, events, gatherings, which, yes, were a good mourning opportunity for many people, but I'm far too gone with disliking him that I can't see it as anything other than him trying to gain an ownership of the situation. We put together a fundraiser in Amy's name for a mental health organization she had used, and Brian was upset that he was not listed as a contributor. He didn't donate. We had a book where anyone could write about their memories with Amy. Cara wrote a half page. Brian wrote 2.5. I do not like to lie. It makes me feel very sick to my stomach. And a couple months have passed, and the knowledge that I actively lied about Amy's last words is gnawing at me. It's so small and stupid, but I didn't say hi to Brian for her. I said I would. She made her last ever request, and I'm denying it. I'm sorry for the paragraphs about what a massive a-hole he is, but I hope it demonstrates my point. This is what he is like. This is how much he behaved, thinking a mutual friend he'd only met a couple of times had died. Imagine what he would have been like if he knew that her last words were about him. I confess, channeling my negative feelings into hating how he has turned this into a main character moment has channeled them away from me in the obvious fact that I left her alone to die. I think my anger at myself for lying might be the biggest part of my guilt, but that's what therapy is for. Thank you for reading. I have given this a lot of thought and I'm not going to tell anyone what she said, but I needed it to get out of my brain and into words. So, Brian's got some stuff going on. Maybe he needs to go to a therapy or a psychiatrist or get a full frontal lobotomy. I don't know. I don't like Brian. As for OP, I don't blame him for not telling the truth. I understand it's gnawing at him, but I think he did the right thing. Do you think he did the right thing lying? Because I'm pretty sure, like he mentions, if he told the truth, Brian would be like, oh my God, my time has come. Someone's died and made it about me. Good grief. What do you think? Next story. Story number 2. My brother wants me to have a threesome with his girlfriend. Recently, I, F24, have noticed a massive change in my brother's behavior ever since he came back from visiting his girlfriend. My brother, who's 2 years older than me, has been dating Jane, fake name, for around 10 to 11 months. They both live on the opposite side of the country in a city that's very far from where I live. For context, I live with my parents because I'm Asian, and it's considered normal to do so until married or if you have a job in a different state or country. My brother recently came back for New Year's and will be living with me and my parents for around 3 weeks to 1 month. Recently, after he came back, he's been dropping some not-so-subtle hints that he wants me to have sex with him and at least have a threesome with his girlfriend if I'm not willing to sleep with him alone. Here are some instances of when he's dropped these hints. 1. He would randomly talk to me about his girlfriend and say that she's just like me and that there's no difference between the two of us. And in that the same sentence, he would just say how much he wants to have sex with her, but that she's just like me. 2. He talks about how me and her look the same, and sometimes he thinks of me while he's being romantic with her. After he said this, he also went out of his way to explain that he meant just dates and cute conversations with her when he said that he was being romantic with her. And 3, he wants me and her to get along, since he wants me and her to be closer than anyone else before he gets me and her to do things together that he thinks we three might enjoy. I have a boyfriend that my brother hates with a burning passion. His reason? It's because my boyfriend isn't manly enough and won't be able to satisfy me in life. He says satisfy and explains that he means satisfy me in life with expensive gifts and money and a big house. But I know that he has a sexual meaning behind that. My brother has also directly asked me if I'm willing to show him my naked body, or at least my ass. This has been going on for as long as I can remember, but my parents don't believe me when I tell them about this. In fact, everyone in my family thinks that I'm just jealous of his girlfriend. Update. So in my previous post where I confessed that my brother is trying to have a threesome with me and his girlfriend, a lot of people in Redme told me that I was focusing on the wrong part of the situation, as this had nothing to do with his girlfriend, but it had all to do with him. Some people even told me that she might not even know that he was bringing this topic up, or even wanted to have sex with me. So I finally decided to talk to her. partially because I also wanted to warn her about what kind of man he is. I spoke to her on call, and I started with something like, "Hey, I know this is super weird and that you and I are not close enough for me to do randomly calling, but there's something I think you should know about your boyfriend." I told her that recently he's been making sexual remarks towards me and has been very blatantly dropping hints that he wants me to have sex with him, or at the very least, join them in a threesome. I fully explained to her that this is not a subtle gesture, but very blunt, and that he was putting extreme emphasis on how much he just wants to do it. I even mentioned how he compared me and her as being the exact same people, and how sometimes he says that she's literally my twin, and how much he wants to have sex with me and with her. I'll be real honest, I was really scared that she won't believe me, but what she told me next was even worse. She said that he's done something similar with her before, and that this is not new for her. When I asked her to elaborate, she told me that he sometimes tells her to call him older brother in our native language. He even shows her random pictures and tells her to dress more like those photos, but the clothes in those photos are usually the style of clothes that I wear. For context, I dress slightly modern and tend to wear feminine, flowy things. And this is only because of convenience. It has nothing to do with fashion. It's not a style that she enjoys. She clearly doesn't like to dress like that. She wears more modest clothes that are unisex, like jeans and shirts. He's also recently been telling her to get more into my hobbies, or just to behave more like me. I can't elaborate on that much because she wasn't willing to speak about this anymore. I asked her if they had been intimate before, and she told me that he actually fully avoids touching her unless she calls him Big Brother. So yeah, this is freaking creepy. On top of that, I guess I forgot to mention that she and I are the same age. He, however, is 2 years older than the both of us. I can't believe how stupid I am. The signs have been right in front of me. My brother is a predator, and this is freaking disgusting. I wish I could give you guys a happy ending, but unfortunately, his girlfriend has decided to stay with him. When I asked her why, and even said that he's clearly a predator, she told me that I don't love him like she does, and that if she loves him enough, he won't do this anymore. Thanks a lot to those Redditors who commented on my previous post and helped me see things clearly. This call with his girlfriend happened a few minutes ago, and now I'm planning on moving out sooner. I don't know if she'll talk to him about this, but if she does, then I need to move out before she tells him because my brother is very violent and will try to hit me if he finds out what I've told her. He has hit me before, and badly, to the point where I have bled profusely. Yes, my parents did nothing, by the way. I'm moving out tonight and going to live with some relatives who believe me. Also, to answer some questions that I got on my previous post. 1. Did your brother ever try to force you to do something sexual? Yes, he did. He's been trying for a long time. 2. Did he ever try to record me or drug me? Yes to both. Also, I 100% believe that he will try to SA me, so I'm kind of in a hurry to move out. I've got a few hours until I'm leaving. I had some downtime, so I thought I would update you guys. So you guys remember how in the previous commentary for the first story I said go to therapy or a psychiatrist or get a frontal lobotomy? Yeah, this guy should do that, or just be locked up, or thrown in jail, and throw away the key. What is wrong with him? What is wrong with his parents? What is wrong with the girlfriend? What is wrong with the family, apparently? It seems that OP has been dealing with this for so long at such a young age, all the way up into adulthood, that she didn't really realize how bad this is, but now she's gotten older and realizing, oh my god, I have to leave before my brother hits me. I don't have words. Okay, next story. Story number 3. I stalked my fiancé to get him to ask me out. He has no idea. I am a fairly attractive woman, but I am picky. I get approached by men, but I always found something wrong with them, until I met N. I was at work, and my supervisor was being mean. N worked closely with me, but only in emergency situations. I won't reveal our specialties by the off chance he sees this, but he spoke up for me. I looked at him, and physically he's everything I've wanted in a man. Tall, muscular, dimples, and he had the finance parts down. Let's just say in a few years, he'll earn a lot of money. Not to say I'm a gold digger, but I want to be comfortable. So, I decided to put more effort at work for him to notice me. I did my hair, makeup, etc. He noticed. I caught him looking my way a few times, but he never spoke to me. Finally, I got his name, looked him up online, and the more I discovered, the more I wanted him. We were both raised by single mothers. We lived a couple minutes away from each other as children. We liked the same sports teams, shows, etc. I began to imagine a life with him, but if only he'd approach me. I didn't plan to stalk him at first. I thought it was just a crush that would go away. I tried dating other guys and kept thinking of him. I felt like I was in an episode of You because I felt like this strong urge came upon me to get to know him. So, during my free time, I would stalk him online. And one thing led to another, and I found his mother's Facebook. I figured out where she went to church. I signed up for that church. I also found his address online. So I picked up a per diem gig at a coffee shop literally down the block from their apartment. I didn't need the job. I had a career already, but I needed an excuse to run into him. One day, I saw his mother carrying bags to her walk-up, so I hurried to help her and mentioned I recognized her from church. And then I introduced myself and helped her with her bags. She was very kind. Then, every Sunday at church, I'd say hi to her, and we started sitting next to each other, and since I came alone, she was the only person I knew. At this point, about 6 months has gone by, and N no longer works at my job, and I never saw him again. I also knew that he liked to fish, so I brought a book about fishing. I wrote in it, "If lost, please return to S. Seriously, I'm trying to learn how to fish, LOL." I wrote my Instagram handle and phone number on it. And at this point, I stopped working at that shop, but never told his mom I quit and grew closer to her. She spoke about her son a lot. I learned so much about him, and even his work schedule. This is why I knew when to ring her bell. I came up with the excuse that I locked my phone inside the store and have no way to order an Uber home. She welcomed me in, and N was there. He looked at me like I'm someone he knew, but he couldn't pinpoint it. I said hi and didn't push for a conversation. I mostly talked to his mom, making sure to mention I need to go home right away to watch X Game on TV, knowing it's his favorite team, and I accidentally left my book there that evening. And guess what? He texted me the next day about the book and says he'd be willing to take me fishing, and the rest is history. We have been together for 1.5 years, engaged last month. Honestly, we just work. And he did notice me. He claims he was too shy to approach me, and then he switched buildings and never saw me again. He thinks it was fate that brought us together. SMH. I am so happy with him, and I'm aware I can never tell him though. Guys, she got away with it. She pulled the heist and rode off into the sunset with her husband that she stalked and stole. What? Is this from a movie? Also, she could have sped up the process and approached him first. I'm just saying, right? I mean, there's finding your person and then there's finding your dream person. So I guess I can understand wanting to make sure you don't drop the ball there, but good grief. Okay, next story. Story number 4. My neighbor, who thought I was gay my whole life, found out I am in fact straight the hard way. I, 25M, have grown up besides these neighbors, 50s-M and 50s-F, my whole life. And I am close to their daughter, 24F. We spent almost all of our time together. Her mom has always thought I was feminine and not quite right and just funny. So, I bet she thought I was real freaking hilarious last night when she walked in on me balls deep in her daughter. I came home to my parents' house from working out of state, and the neighbor's daughter sees me and pulls me in. We talked, reconnected, and decided to chill since her parents were out of town, and she was house sitting. So, we rode around listening to music, smoked her up, dinner, and a little Netflix and chill. And one thing led to another, and eventually I had her legs hanging on my shoulders, making it sound like mac and cheese. We didn't hear the door, but we heard the "oh my god!" So I'm diving for my clothes, her mom's freaking out, and she's covering herself with a blanket. So I go running out the front door with b-ball shorts on as her dad's carrying stuff to the door. I hopped in my car and drove off like a bat out of hell. Now, I'm sitting here beside the lake in my car. My mom texted me saying the neighbors are furious and we all need to talk this out. My dad called trying to be stern, but knowing that we were both adults and grown up together, he just said he's surprised it didn't happen sooner. Story number 5. My husband threw his phone onto the ground and shattered it instead of sharing who he was talking to. As of 2 hours ago, I was anxious and he could tell. I was tapping my foot against the couch and he asked what was wrong. I stupidly decided to open up and asked him who he was talking to on Snapchat tonight, because he's been on there more. And you can see post history for Snap history of the last year. A lot of flirting and emotional cheating and OnlyFans girls. I didn't even ask about the conversations or messages, just who he was talking to, like the list of names on the screen, just to put my mind at ease. Nope. He became irate and threw his phone on the tile floor at my feet. It shattered. I was fine, but he lost all of our photos from the last 2 years, and then he blamed me for it, and now he needs to buy a new phone. Say you're sorry, he told me. You did this, he said. Say thank you. That's the least you could do is say thank you, he told me, holding up the shattered phone to my face. I am beyond sad and disheartened that the photos were lost. That now we have to fork up nearly $1,200 for a phone that was completely fine until I asked to see who he was talking to. And now this is somehow all my fault. What? Help, please, I'm unraveling. I need prayers. So she lost 1,200 photos on her boyfriend's phone. Were they photos of him cheating on her, lying to her, gaslighting her, manipulating her, not going to therapy? This guy broke his $1,200 presumably iPhone to hide the fact that he was cheating, but she knows anyway? Is this post real? She is either in an abusive relationship and does not realize this, or this is just vague enough to piss people off and get comments and Reddit karma. But assuming this is real, there is just so much to unpack here and we do not have the time. So please, if you have any comments on the situation, feel free to share them. Okay, bye-bye.